Zainab, a hard-working wife, mother, and daughter, often feels unnoticed by her family. Her days are filled with responsibilities, and it seems like everyone around her takes her efforts for granted. Today, she faces one of the hardest moments of her life, her mother's funeral. Even in her grief, she can't find any support from her family. Her father, Doric, makes things harder. He is demanding and stubborn, adding stress when Zainab is already overwhelmed. Her daughter, Fia, is a young woman who often speaks to Zainab with a sharp, dismissive tone. This hurts Zainab deeply, but she is used to Fia treating her this way. And then there is her husband, Ilyas. They have been married for 30 years, yet he barely seems to care about her feelings. Ilyas promises Zainab that he will come to the funeral service in time to support her during her speech. Public speaking is something that Zainab finds very difficult, so his presence would mean a lot. However, Ilyas runs a restaurant, and he mentions that he needs to be there to train a new chef. Zainab understands that he has responsibilities, but in this moment, she feels she needs him more. As she watches him, she sees him laughing on the phone, chatting casually with someone. Her heart sinks, realizing that, even now, Ilyas is not really there for her. In this painful moment, Zainab stands alone, carrying her sorrow without any true support from the people closest to her. Right as Zainab is about to leave for her mother's funeral service, she receives unexpected news. Her mother, Catalina, had secretly bought a house in Croatia, using her own savings, and she left it to Zainab. Catalina had sent the property documents to Herr Edelbuttel, Zainab's neighbor, with instructions to deliver them only after her passing. Zainab is stunned by this discovery, and so is her father, Doric, who is troubled by the realization that he didn't know his wife as well as he thought. He mutters about how she feels like a stranger to him now. As the funeral service begins, Zainab waits, hoping that Ilyas, her husband, will show up to support her. But the clock keeps ticking, and he never arrives. Heartbroken and confused, Zainab leaves the service and heads to his restaurant, only to find him in good spirits, laughing with his junior chef. When Ilyas sees her, he simply explains that his watch stopped, and he lost track of time. But Zainab sees the truth in his actions. He is captivated by the young chef, Croatian Nora. Nora, meanwhile, steps in, making the moment about herself, talking about how difficult it is for her as a new hire. Ilyas comforts her, barely acknowledging Zainab's presence, let alone her grief. Feeling completely ignored and unsupported, Zainab reaches her breaking point. She makes an impulsive decision to escape from it all and sets off immediately for Croatia, heading to the house her mother left her. She leaves her car behind when she reaches the ferry crossing, boarding with only the essentials. On the other side, she takes a bus, but it breaks down, leaving her to walk the remaining distance alone. Exhausted and emotionally drained, Zainab finally reaches the house late at night. She finds the bed and collapses into it, seeking rest after a chaotic day. But her relief is short-lived. The following morning, she wakes up to an unexpected and unpleasant surprise that leaves her on edge once more. Zainab wakes up in a strange bed, only to find a man, Josip, lying beside her. Startled, she listens as he calmly explains that he has been living in this house, Cliff Cottage, for his entire life, 45 years. 15 years ago, when her mother, Catalina, bought the property, she allowed Josip to stay there rent-free until someone else decided to move in. Now, Zainab can't believe her mother's arrangement and is determined to rent or sell the house as soon as possible. The cottage itself is beautiful, nestled on a cliff overlooking the ocean with stunning views of nature. But Zainab's mind is set. She wants to make some money from the place. When she mentions the idea of turning it into an Airbnb, Josip becomes furious. He values the house's charm and character and can't stand the thought of it becoming just another rental. He has no intention of leaving, either. Half of the land the cottage is on belongs to him, and he makes it clear that he won't be giving it up. Zainab, frustrated but determined, decides she'll make some changes to the cottage anyway, thinking it could benefit from modern upgrades like heating, lighting, and a television. But Josip is equally determined to prevent her from altering the house. He sets up his tent just outside, making his presence known, and watches her every move. The next day, Zainab walks to the nearest town to gather supplies and buy a bicycle to help with her trips. She also sets up a meeting with a local property dealer, Conrad, who is young, friendly, and quick to make a connection with her. Josip, however, has no respect for Conrad, disliking him for both his business and his cheerful attitude. Later that night, Zainab, quite drunk after her meeting with Conrad, stumbles back toward the cottage. Josip steps in to help her home, and despite her antics, he goes along with her request to sing 99 Red Balloons. They share a strange but light-hearted moment. But Josip's patience only goes so far. That same night, he takes her Spanx and burns them in a small bonfire, calling them ridiculous. His comments about her soft, round belly, and the phrase, old hen, good soup, aren't exactly compliments, but they oddly make Zainab feel more at ease around him. The next day, Zainab orders the upgrades she wanted: heaters, lamps, a refrigerator, a TV, and cable, following Conrad's suggestions. Josip, furious with the idea of changing the cottage, goes so far as to cancel her order at the hardware store. He lectures her, saying that every house on the island has a story and personality. He vows to keep Cliff Cottage as it is, refusing to let her kill its charm with modern gadgets and rentals. Over time, Zainab and Josip's clashes slowly turn into a strange but comforting companionship. They bond through their constant bickering, small acts of revenge, and the quiet moments they share. Zainab even takes her turn at petty revenge, burning Josip's underwear in retaliation. Despite their battles, they grow close, finding peace in each other's presence and connecting through music. Josip notices how much the song, 99 Red Balloons, means to her, playing it to lift her spirits. One day, he takes her out on his boat, and, away from everything, they open up about their struggles. Zainab shares how her family treats her like a fixture, expecting her to always put them first. Josip, in turn, tells her that his wife left him for his own brother, only for both of them to die in a tragic car accident soon after. Their mutual pain brings them closer, giving them an understanding of each other's loneliness. Then, a call from Conrad changes everything. He informs Zainab that she has received an offer for the cottage. Furious, she confronts Josip for not telling her sooner about Conrad's visit and the offer. Still intent on selling the house, Zainab calls Ilyas, explaining that the money from the sale could be invested in his restaurant. She hopes this will help them finally spend more time together. But her heart sinks as Ilyas coldly dismisses her plan, revealing that he has fallen in love with his young chef. He tries to justify it by saying it happened only after Zainab left. Shattered by this admission, Zainab tries to shut herself off, switching off her location services to disconnect. Josip, thinking he's helping her escape from the past, takes her phone and throws it against the rocks, smashing it. Distraught, Zainab leaps into the ocean, perhaps with the impulse to recover the phone, or maybe just to escape her tangled emotions. Eventually, she gives up and returns to the cottage, realizing that what she needs most now is the chance to heal. Josip gives Zainab space to recover, caring for her in simple, thoughtful ways by bringing her food and water. Slowly, Zainab begins to feel like herself again. When Conrad stops by one day, she finally steps outside, and tensions rise as he and Josip start arguing. Tired of their bickering, Zainab suddenly breaks down a wall in the house, declaring that she wants more light in her life. In a burst of freedom, she revels in her new independence now that her marriage is over. Both men are momentarily stunned, but they can't help admiring her courage. Later, at a bar, Conrad flirts with Zainab, making a bold move, but Josip interrupts, and her mood is quickly spoiled. Angry, she confronts Josip, but he says he has something to show her. He hands her a translated copy of a letter from her mother and takes her to Catalina's original home nearby. In the letter, Catalina speaks of wanting Zainab to live freely and find happiness, encouraging her to embrace her true self. The message resonates deeply with Zainab, who realizes she has been missing this sense of freedom with her family. Josip then asks if he could buy back his old home, but upon hearing the price of 1.2 million euros, he decides to let go of the idea. Determined to honor her mother's wish for her happiness, Zainab climbs the tallest mountain on the island, taking in the breathtaking view and feeling a renewed sense of purpose. When she returns to the house, a car arrives with a man inside. Josip hurriedly asks her not to mention that he has been living in a tent. To Zainab's surprise, the visitor is Yosip's brother, Drazen, the very person who made the offer to buy the cottage. Despite what Josip has told her, Drazen is alive, though Josip jokes about their relationship as if his brother were as good as dead. In fact, he frequently changes the story of Drazen's death as a way of expressing their estrangement. Frustrated with the arrival of his brother, Josip tells Zainab he will leave, as he doesn't want to stay near Drazen. But Zainab, now feeling a deep connection to the cottage and her newfound freedom, decides against selling the house. She confesses her feelings for Josip, and they share a heartfelt moment, finally spending the night together as Zainab begins to embrace the life and love she truly desires. The morning after their night together, Zainab and Josip wake up to a blissful new reality, sharing breakfast on the porch. Their peaceful moment is suddenly interrupted when Zainab's daughter, Fia, arrives unexpectedly. Catching her mother in a state of undress with Josip, Fia is stunned. But the shock soon fades, and mother and daughter reconcile, finally having an open, honest conversation. Fia heads into town to process everything, stopping by an internet cafe, where she runs into Conrad. The next day, Zainab's husband, Ilyas, and her father arrive on the island, having been filled in on the situation by Fia. Their arrival sparks a chaotic showdown with Josip, and Conrad and Drazen quickly get involved, each one defending their own stance. Zainab, fed up with the fighting, steps in to stop the arguments. She orders the men to prepare dinner together while she and Fia go out to pick up supplies, giving everyone time to cool down. When they return, the tension has softened, and they all sit down for dinner. Ilyas, looking to make amends, tells Zainab he wants to give their relationship another chance. But Zainab has long since taken off her wedding ring, and she calmly tells him that she is ready to move on. With a sense of peace, Zainab raises a toast to her mother, giving the speech she was unable to deliver at the funeral. They all then share a joyful moment, dancing to 99 Red Balloons, a song that now carries new meaning for her. As Ilyas and Zainab's father prepare to leave, Zainab finds a red balloon waiting for her inside the cottage, a sweet, subtle message from Josip that he's still here for her. Smiling, she rushes outside to find him, and they share a passionate kiss under the starlit sky, the ocean stretching out before them. Two stubborn, spirited souls who have found a way to bring each other happiness, just as her mother had wished. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.